Now, a sign of hope in all this chaos. If you want a sign of hope, I will give you a sign of hope here. This is from another. This is just an excerpt from another Solete non possum article posted by just a random X user, but this does check out. Quoting that random article. Meanwhile, something seems to be moving on a symbolic level as well, confirming what has been emphasized for years on these pages regarding the fact that many cardinals appointed by Bergoglio were not enthusiastic about the ruler. After years of liturgical clothing reduced to the essentials, dignified vestments are once again being seen, decorated with sobriety, but also with a care that has now been forgotten. This morning, Cardinal Kevin Farrell, Camerlengo of the Holy Roman Church, was wearing a dignified cope, a sign of a change that is strongly desired inside and outside the Leonine walls. And in fact, nothing like this has been seen for 12 years. Furthermore, on Monday, it seems that the cardinals poured into the cellars to recover the keys to the safes and took out the gold pectoral crosses, which had been put in cellophane 12 years ago. Even the Pope's secretaries today managed to find a cassock to wear, despite their firm desire not to use it in all these years. End quote. So there's a superficial return to traditional appearances going on in Rome. One of the worst cardinals that is talked about by those who know in Rome as being papabile, one of the worst, is definitely a Bergoglian, but is also fairly friendly to some of the more, I don't want to say superficial, but some of the less important aspects of tradition. The traditional mass is definitely not one of the less important things, but he's more tolerant of it than others. But some of these would be allowing priests to wear traditional cassocks and things. Doesn't care about that stuff. When it comes to the Bergoglian stuff, he is a full-throated supporter of things like, the James Martin sin and all this stuff. He is considered by Italian standards to be moderate, and that would be Cardinal Zuppi, who would be a disaster for the church. I would not take too seriously these signs of these trappings coming back as being anything other than Bergoglio having gone too far for some of them. But with that said, that's a setup for this main article here. From First Things, headline, Pope Francis, trad icon. Trad icon, Pope Francis. You're about to hear from First Things, a very normal American conservative Catholic outlet. I don't quote it very often because it's a kind of outlet that tells you that all you need really to do to fix the state of the church is get a relatively young guy who's a Benedict XVI type to fix the church, and everything will be fine again. That's not the solution the church needs. The church needs something much more robust than just a good pope, or even a good post-conciliar pope. But you're about to hear Pope Francis described as a traditional icon. Not because traditionalists talked about him all the time. No. But because he was just so very great and conservative. By now, you have to have seen this. There is an attempt to make Pope Francis to whitewash the bad things he did. Again, I told you, beginning of this week, yes, we should use decorum when talking about him, but we cannot lie. We have to tell the truth about what he did to the church. But let us be educated together on how Pope Francis is a trad icon. Written by Sohrab Armari on April 24th, 2025. From the article, quote, the early years of Pope Francis's reign coincided with an HBO show about a young chain-smoking pontiff who takes the suggestive name of Pius XIII and brings back the papal tiara upon taking office. As an aside, that show was awful, full of really impure things. If you can find a version of the show with all that stuff edited out, you might find something passable. There are clips, however, of that Pope speaking on YouTube, and they are magnificent. But I can't recommend the show to you because it's a near occasion of sin at the very least for people, if not an outright occasion of sin. And by HBO standards, it's fairly restrained. Yeah, HBO. That's all you should really need to know about this. They made a follow-up to it because the creator apparently was alarmed that traditionalists loved the Pope he was showing when his purpose was to show you how bad it would be if we got a traditionalist Pope. Happens often with Hollywood types. But anyway. For a small but influential cohort of conservative Catholic intellectuals, many of us converts to the faith, Jude Law's Pius was the Roman pontiff we wished we had. A traditionalist with a revulsion from modernity born of his own abandonment by his hippie parents. The Pope we got in real life was an Argentine Jesuit who couldn't stop talking about the thermometer problem, seemed to wink at divorce, and framed young traditionalist priests as Latter-day Pharisees who merely substituted Saturno hats for wide phylacteries. Yet in retrospect, it's clear that Francis was just a pontiff we needed. The substance of his message was far more trad than critics appreciated, and his governing style challenged us to practice what we preached about authority. Start with the late pontiff's teachings, both in magisterial documents and his daily practice as universal pastor. Too often, the trads couldn't get past the surface to glimpse the rebuke to post-enlightened modernity at the heart of his teaching. Last year, for example, when Jordan Peterson chided Francis for prioritizing the thermometer problem at the expense of salvation, conservative Catholic outlets and personalities raced to cheer the Canadian pop psychologist. As an aside, not all of us, some of us have warned people about Jordan Peterson, and it's becoming pretty clear we're right. But no, not all of us went to defend Peterson. Numerous episodes of this kind marked his pontificate, which saw the emergence of a veritable anti-Francis cottage industry, mainly centered in the Anglophone world. Learned commentators who should have known better joined forces with cruder trad influencers to prime a subset of Catholics against the Pope. The second Francis would open up his mouth to teach, the angry online replies and accusations of communism and worse piled up. Set aside that stewardship of the earth is a perfectly biblical injunction, whether one might agree or disagree with this or that policy agenda. As Rusty Reno pointed out in his tribute, Francis's social and environmental teachings, though occasionally garbled by the NGOE's language in which it couched, expanded his immediate predecessor's critique of Enlightenment reason. I witnessed this firsthand as a part of a small group of journalists who joined the Holy Father on his 2019 journey to Abu Dhabi, marking the first time a Roman pontiff set foot in the Arabian Peninsula in defiance of a warning attributed to Umar ibn Khattab, one of the false prophet's closest companions, that on the peninsula of the Arabs, two religions shall not coexist. Speaking alongside the Grand Imam of Cairo's Al-Azhar University, Francis railed against the modern logic of individualism and utilitarianism. In their place, he proposed an integral account of human development encompassing metaphysics, a continuation of Pope Benedict XVI's argument in the 2006 Regensburg Address. In Ave Maria, Francis's book-like meditation on the Hail Mary prayer, the Pope likewise fulminated against the neoliberal elites who embody and enact a soulless modern logic. He described them as an elite that does not know what it means to live among the people, characterized by spiritual orphanhood and narcissistic individualism that deprives them and society of large of any sort of belonging to a family, to a people, to a land, to our God. End quote. And what you're seeing there is called cherry picking. I can easily cherry pick things Francis said to make him look like the next coming of Pius XII or next coming of Pius X. It's called gaslighting. It's all too easy to do. You could cherry pick anything you want from him and make him seem whatever you want from him. He gave us ample evidence, though, that he was what was called a Peronist. Juan Perón in Argentina was famous for flipping from the left to the right on political issues to help maintain his power and to work with whoever would keep him there for as long as necessary, while he continued his own personal project. And that is exactly what Francis was doing. And the things he did were categorical rejections of Catholic morality, fiducia supplicans, amoris laetitia, and also selling the church out in a very related to that way to the secular authorities for their programs. Yeah, he said some great conservative sounding things from time to time, but don't lose sight of things. Cherry picking this to whitewash him, to make him seem like a canonizable saint, because you know that's where they want to go, is not going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help the cardinals who are tasked now with the most important decision of their lives, probably, who will be the next Roman pontiff. Pope Francis trad icon, give us a break. Please. Be honest about the man. Be honest about the man who crushed religious institutions of nuns and of monks, who worked with local dioceses to take their property from them. Be honest about the man who decided that he didn't like the traditional mass for a variety of reasons and got rid of it, or tried to. Be honest about the man who allowed pagan idolatry in the Vatican. Whitewashing this stuff helps no one. The man told people of other religions that they did not need to become Catholic, that they, as part of religions who rejected the divinity of Jesus Christ, were fine where they were, and they should just focus on being the best, whatever they already were. Only our Lord knows how many souls were led astray because of this. Do not whitewash him. Laugh at the people who try to, or respond sternly, try to correct them. Whatever it is, sometimes mocking laughter is the best response, because some propositions are so ridiculous that they had better be satire. But I know for a fact that First Things does not publish satire. First Things is a conservative post-conciliar news outlet or opinion outlet. And you're seeing in some quarters some of the conservative post-conciliar figures, commentators, going after people who went after Francis to try to expose what he was doing, calling us all to task for being mean-spirited and all the rest of it. Don't put up with it. All right, folks. I'm curious what you think about all this, because, again, there are attempts. You have to let me know other places you're seeing this attempt to make Francis out to be something like a traditionalist, super Catholic figure. Let me know other places you're seeing this, because it's not just First Things. There are commentators doing this now, bloggers doing this. This is not the let's use a little decorum when talking about the recently departed man recognized as Pope by 99.9 to the 10th power Catholics across the world. It's not being careful about how you speak about a dead man. This is literally whitewashing his record. Let me know if you've seen people do this, what other groups you have in the comments, please, and do so with, a little charity, because we're not here to try to stir up your anger against these figures. We're trying to raise awareness. And also, you should pray for them. And pray for the College of Cardinals, please, every single day. Take on some penance if you can, although the octave of Easter is kind of a weird time to do it. Use your conscience as your conscience directs, but do take proactive actions as a layperson, the best you can, which is prayer and fasting for the College of Cardinals. And if you want to wait on fasting until after the octave, I understand. Trust me. It's really dicey to fast during the octave of Easter. Well, the octave ends this coming week, so you can pray for that figure and fast for that figure and for the College of Cardinals to make the decision that aligns with the will of God, whatever his will is. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.